Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. And again, today I'm your co-host, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Good afternoon, Ellen.
Good afternoon, Mike.
And what are we going to talk about today? That's always my question, isn't it?
Yes, you ask me the same thing all the time, but we're going to talk about taking care of our trees and shrubs during the winter or
Yeah,
getting ready for winter.
yeah, leading up to winter. It's hard to believe. Here
Mm-hmm.
we are, middle of September already. And by the time some of the people even hear this, it'll be the latter part of September, so hopefully you get around to some of this stuff pretty soon. We just
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to remind you about some of the key points to help keep your trees and shrubs, healthy as we go through the winter months. And
Right.
our winter months recently have been, particularly troublesome because the temperatures have been up and down and all around, which is
Mm-hmm.
the most challenging thing for any perennial, let alone trees and shrubs, because that's what brings them out of, the dormant state, and makes
Mm-hmm.
them, you know, easily subjected to damage. So,
Right.
first of all, I'm going to start out by saying don't fertilize your trees and the shrubs this late in the season. You
Okay.
don't fertilize them in the late summer or early fall. You don't want to promote new growth that will not harden off before the temperatures get nice and cool. So wait
Okay.
until spring to do that fertilizing, or maybe even not at all. Well, I can't remember the last time I fertilized a tree. Okay,
Yeah, I was
but
thinking I
yeah, you're right.
don't
So
remember doing that here
yeah,
either.
you're right. So trees do quite well with everything. So, do you have anything to add, Ellen?
Not about fertilizing, but I would like to mention that you want to make sure that you water your trees very well going into that winter season. And basically, you need to water them before the ground freezes. Trees and shrubs need to be well hydrated because they can't take up water from frozen ground.
Yeah,
So you want to make sure that they are watered
yeah,
very well.
yeah, and that's
Okay.
especially true with any new plantings of the current year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
older established folks like us, okay, we know how to take up our water, okay, and
You
but
think.
but the new trees, new shrubs, okay, need a little assistance. So, do
Yeah.
that. What about pruning?
Well, fall is the time where you want to take some of those dead and damaged and diseased branches out of your trees and shrubs, but you don't want to do any other pruning at this point. You want to wait until spring or early summer. If you start pruning live branches now, it's going to stimulate some growth and it's going to be too late in the season. They won't be able to handle the cold temperatures. Just remember your spring bloomers, those flowers form on last year's growth. So you want to prune after they bloom in the spring, after that spring
Mm-hmm.
blossom
That's right.
comes out. Yeah. And your
Mm.
summer bloomers, just the opposite, flowers form on new growth. So you do prune those late winter, early spring.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Hmm.
And I have to say the wind did some pruning for me last night.
Did
Okay, yeah,
last night, yeah,
yeah, knocked
yeah,
down some of the old dead branches. Okay, that I had to go pick up today. But what
yeah.
about mulch?
Well, you do want to mulch around your plant. Okay, you want to mulch about 2 to 3 inches and extend that mulch out 2 to 3 feet from the base of the plant because, again, that helps the soil maintain the temperature and moisture that it needs, that plant needs to survive through the winter. But you want to keep that mulch a few inches from the trunk of the tree or the shrub. Don't build up, don't build your mulch up the trunk. Move it away from the trunk of the tree.
Yeah, don't do those volcanoes
Yeah,
of
it's
mulch
awful.
around the base of your trees. Some people think it looks kind of cute, but you got to keep in mind that the
Yeah.
bark on the base of the tree,
Mhm.
okay, is not designed or not, to be covered by any kind of material at all. It's not like the covering that's on the roots that are
Mhm.
underground and can sustain that. Okay, once you start, above the ground, you got a whole different physiology of that particular covering. So, and it does not like to be covered. You're going to subject your trees to possibly an early death or certainly some
Right,
some
right.
insect
Some
damage.
diseases.
Yes, you're
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
newly planted trees, and I already said something about that, you might want to actually consider, a little bit of a trunk wrap, okay, to
Hmm.
protect that bark, not only from animals like rabbits and voles and maybe even some deer, but also sometimes on those younger trees when the sun strikes them on one particular side during the wintertime and it kind of warms them up, that'll actually crack the bark. Okay, and
Hmm.
that's where you get the split. You always seem to get that splitting of the bark on these young trees, okay, on that south or southwest side of those trees. So maybe maybe a little of that protective trunk wrap, or maybe even painting those trees with that with a white latex paint, especially on that particular side, will you know you know keep that bark from cracking on you.
Hmm.
Now, shrubs, to protect them, a lot of people like to. You see people, they've wrapped their shrubs in burlap or some other kind of material, and you got to be careful about that, because what that does is that when the sun shines on that burlap covered bush, it warms it up on the inside, and it'll break the dormancy, and then they'll have a tendency to want to start to grow. It'll bring those buds out a little bit, and then you get a cold snap again. Okay, and
Hmm.
and that's what damages the buds. So be very careful about wrapping your trees in any kind of real opaque material like that. You can, if you'd like, use some netting. If you're worried about holding the branches together, use some of that bird netting, okay, which is strong enough to get you through the winter and will hold the tree in pretty good shape, or hold those shrubs in pretty good shape. The other thing you can do is, create some kind of a windbreak if those shrubs are exposed to, the probably the western and northwestern, exposure, and where the wind will come roaring through and burn that shrub a little bit, burn those buds a little bit, and dry it out. That's what
Hmm.
happens. But don't wrap them, okay? But you
Right.
can you can put a couple stakes in the ground and put up a burlap screening material, if you will, okay, to help break that drying wind. So that
Right.
kind of helps. So
Hmm.
you know, be considerate of those things and think about some of those things as you're going into winter, and your plants should be okay. But again, new plantings should be well watered before they go into that winter season. Anything real
Right.
quick, Ellen?
The only thing I was going to add was, the best strategy to protect your trees and shrubs from mice, rabbits, voles, deer, whatever, is don't don't create a shelter for them around your trees and shrubs. Clean that out so that they don't have a place to take shelter during the winter. That might help.
Well, very
That's
good
all.
point. Very good point.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for listening, and hope to have you with us next time. Thank you now. Bye bye.